Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast. As always, joining me on the show on Thursday is my co-host, the Dazzler, Darren. How are we, Darren?
I'm all good, pal. How are you? How's your week
Good,
been?
yeah. Yeah, not too bad. Still living in a building site and stuff like that. But sure, look, I've kind of come accustomed to it. I don't know what I'm going to do when all this work is done and I actually have my house back to myself again. It's going to feel very strange.
Will
But yeah,
you
not
will
too
you
bad.
venture into the kitchen then to cook something, or will you just hang back and let everyone else have a bounce, or what do you think?
I think I'll hang back. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
food being served to me. I don't like doing the donkey work. Um,
absolutely.
but this is Thursday Tier Talk. As always, we would ask you if you're enjoying the content and you're watching it, smash a like on the video. Also, subscribe to the channel, the Upper Tier. If you're a Reds fan, at the moment you wouldn't be. It's international break, but if you are, we also do the Shankly sessions on the podcast for all you Liverpool fans. Tonight we have a little bit of a different show. We don't have Beat the Bookie and Premier League preview, obviously, and we're trying to help you people navigate your way through international breaks. So we said what we
Jesus.
do is it's a tough one.
And we're off
It's a tough one.
in the
Um,
comments.
oh, he's already here. Is he? Mason Mount England stats. Good
That
Lord,
wouldn't
Morris.
that wouldn't take us very long, Morris. It certainly wouldn't fill a show anyway. Put it that way.
No, absolutely not. No, what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a fun show tonight where we're going to actually take a look back at some of Ireland's most memorable football moments. And if you are in the chat, or you want to comment, or you want to come on and tell us a story, let us know. We'll drop the link into the comments there if you want. You can come on and tell us, even if it's a story where you were out in a pub watching an Ireland game and you bumped into a girl and she became the love of your life and you got married to her. Whatever story connects with you in terms of the Ireland team and stuff like that. No doubt we'll touch on the famous Walkinstown roundabout. We'll touch on everything. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a goal, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a save or a player. It can be just a memorable moment when you're within your own life, connected in some crazy fun way to the Ireland international team. So just a fun episode, bit of crack, back and forth between me and Darren. We're going to rattle off some of our memorable moments, not necessarily rated in a 1 to 10 or anything like that, because they're all pretty great when you go back and look at them and stuff like that. I would have probably a longer span than you, Darren, in terms of me being a little bit older than you.
A
So,
little
but
bit
what I
older
did
and a little
was,
bit uglier, pal, but that's all right. We still like it.
yeah,
Don't worry.
safer. And but what I did was I tried to put in a spread there from close to current times all the way back as far as I could go. All right, Morris back in the comments. Only joking, boys. Have to go record some shows. Get you on the playback. Robbie Kane versus Germany is my moment in my grandmother's house, who has since passed. Nice memory. Brilliant. Lovely memory, Morris. Thanks for
Yeah,
that. Appreciate it,
absolutely.
as always. But where do we start with this? Because there's been, for a small little island with a small pool to pick from and stuff like that, we've created some history on the way, haven't we? In terms
We
of
did,
stuff
and
that
you know
we've
what we
done.
were really good at? We were really good at making that pool bigger. we we
Mm,
did a sublime job of stretching the parameters of what it took to be an international player, and to qualify for a country. But listen, any lad or an awful lot of the lads that pulled on an Ireland jersey over the years really put their heart and soul into it. Because I think that's the kind of jersey it was, and even when we had some of the English lads that were playing for us and stuff like that, they went out and they picked up a shovel, and they always played for the jersey. They always
mm,
played for their manager. They always put the shift in for the fans. And to be honest, I think we're very, very lucky looking at it. Like if you
mm,
look at, obviously, like we're a small nation, you're talking somewhere between 4 and 5 million population and stuff like that. And
yeah,
and for a country of our size, we've had some phenomenal moments in major tournaments and in
mm,
qualification for major tournaments where we've done stuff that shook the footballing world at times, and people just
yeah,
thought, wow, look at this little. And of course then you've the
yeah,
whole thing about the Irish fans and how well received we are anywhere we go, around the world. People always love to see Irish fans because they know we're
mm,
there for a bit of crack. We're not there for anything other than that. You know what I mean? A win's a bonus, but we're
Yeah,
there to enjoy ourselves and stuff like that. And I just
yeah,
think, like, if we started off, the first moment for me is the Irish fans. That's the
yeah.
first moment I'm going to throw in.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a
uh,
great shout, really, because a couple of times we were voted the best fans, weren't we, at these tournaments and stuff like that, and all, because
absolutely. And
we were
even
just
like,
really there to drink and party and have a good time and stuff like that, and that's basically what we did.
we've done that in a lot of major tournaments, and at times it's looked like the side had done that as well, but
Yeah,
we've had the lads the fans have always represented the country so well. You look at there's nations our size that have had issues with various different things. There's much bigger countries, and obviously when there's a bigger population, there's more of a chance that guys are going to get into trouble and do this and that. But we've really kept what you would describe as a very, very clean bib going all the way around the world, and the fans representing the team, and the team representing the fans, and it's been a joy to watch. It really has. And if I think about how lucky we are as Irish people and as Irish fans, because don't forget, we can be born anywhere in this world, and for us to be lucky enough to be born Irish football fans, and I know we give the international stick at times, um, but to be born Irish fans and to have been able to go through what we've gone through, the highs and the lows and the ecstasy and all of that, and just
the agony.
just unbelievable, the agony, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
brilliant. It really is. It's like a soap opera, the Irish football team, and I think
yeah.
it's something we don't always appreciate, but
Mm,
it's definitely something when you take a look back through memory lane like we did tonight, or like we will do tonight, and you see
mm.
what's gone on before, you think, wow, it's very special.
Yeah, and when you think about it, I mean, you touched on there how Jack was so good at stretching that elastic band and finding,
Yeah,
you know, you mean to tell me you had a grandmother who spent a summer in Mayo on holidays or something like that?
absolutely.
Hang on a minute, you know what I mean? Like he was so good at that kind of thing and stuff like that, and it was a kind of like it was nearly like a personal thing for him, wasn't it? It was like a personal challenge. Who can I really push and get over the line and get away with it, kind of thing, you know?
Jack Jack had two big challenges. That was
Mm,
one of them, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this other challenge before. Um, I used to work in one of the financial institutions, and we were told about how there was a really, really clever man who used to manage the Irish football team. And what he would do was he'd go out to a restaurant, a pub, a bar, wherever he would go. And when he'd go in, he'd be very happy to take a picture with, the owner or the manager, whoever it was, and he'd go and he'd have food, and maybe he'd have a few points, and he'd do this and he'd do that, and he might get a couple of gargles for the lads, and then he'd do something else, and he always paid by check,
yes.
because there was so many people who wouldn't cash the check
Yeah, go
because
into
they
the
wanted to
frame and
have
onto the wall.
go
Yeah,
into the frame underneath the little picture of Jack in the
yeah,
flat cap, and
yeah,
then the little check for £35 and 42 cents. And
yeah.
Jack got a couple of good meals around this town on some publicans and stuff like that. And I just think that's a great
Yeah.
story. I love
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot of checks and bars around the city of Dublin and stuff like that
Yeah,
that have never been cashed. So
absolutely.
yeah, so he knew all right, and if you think about it, as you mentioned, 35, £40 back then, we're talking about a time where a point was maybe two 50, so it was a
Yeah,
good
if you're
night.
having a good
Yeah,
night. Yeah,
yeah, it was a good
absolutely.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and such a keen fisherman as well, if you remember as well, loved his fishing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I suppose it's kind of hard to know where to begin. Really, for me, my first kind of memories of it was, if we bought a schoolboy ticket to go to the match, we always got a half day off school. So that was kind of the bonus for it, as well as being an Irish football fan and stuff like that. But my first memory was I went to a Hungary game, before '88, I think it was. Now I'm not sure whether it was a qualifier or just a friendly or what it was, but it was against Hungary, in the old Lansdowne Road. And this was at a time when the big bananas and all were strife. Remember these big huge bananas, the blow up bananas and stuff like that and all,
Yeah.
were absolutely strife. But after the game, um, we'd always go back to UCD. And if you're familiar with UCD, there's a big lake in the middle of UCD. And we'd all end up in that lake, um, on these bananas, and the bananas would be like canoes. And we'd be going around the lake on these big bananas and stuff like that. And the security men would be running around the lake trying to catch us and stuff like that, but they'd never get in. And we'd be all in the middle of the lake, and like to be hundreds of football fans on these bananas like canoes. It was such a great time. That lake used to be just full of those inflatable bananas at the end of most Ireland games and stuff like that. It was classic stuff. But yeah, that was my earliest memory and stuff like that and all, you know. But yeah, where do we begin? I suppose.
Sure. There, go on and have a little look in the comments. There's our resident referee, our old friend Marky Hogan in the comments.
Marky's in the comments. Even lads, you are looking great, lads, as always. Do you
Thanks,
remember
Mark.
the
Just got the
bus?
hair done.
Do you remember the bus roll being thrown onto the pitch in Lansdowne Road before the games? Yeah, absolutely. The old receipt rolls and stuff like that and everything and all. Yeah. Oh God, absolutely. Do we remember?
I have two really early memories. And one is so early. It's a little bit patchy, which I kind of like. You know, so I think it would have been about 1989. I was born in 84, so it was about 89. I know it was definitely before Italian 90.
Yeah.
And my dad brought me to a game in Lansdowne Road, and it was Ireland versus England. And I think it was 1989. I'll get the phone out now and have a look. But I think I remember it was a 1-1 draw at Lansdowne Road in about 89. And I always remember that because obviously, like, I was so small that I don't remember a goal being scored because I was like below the height of what I could see, kind of thing. Yeah. But I just remember everyone going absolutely bananas, and you know, I was definitely one of the smallest there, and like there was just grown men picking me up and you know, like throwing me around like the trophy, this little kid that was getting kind of, you know, passed about. And the lads were probably having points as well because that was, you know, it was pretty normal back at that stage. And then I just remember, you know, obviously got to the final whistle and stuff like that, and we were heading back towards, say, town, you know, and my dad had me on his shoulders and holding the hands and walking back in towards town because obviously the queues were so bad getting on the darts and whatever, and we were trying to make our way back home and stuff. And that was like, I think it was 89. I got to check it out, but I think it was 89. And like, that was when, like, that was kind of laid the foundations for my kind of love affair with football in general, not just, you know, with Ireland and stuff like that. And then the kind of the first blocks then that were laid on top of it was Italian 90. And obviously we'd qualified for the World Cup and stuff like that, which was amazing. But I was still, like, at that stage in 1990, I'm born in November, so I'm only 5 at that stage. And I remember, like, it was the summer, obviously, and we used to get a decent summer back in the early 90s, remember? And we
definitely did.
We did, you know. It was none of these rain showers and thunderstorms and none of this shit.
It was my leaving cert year. It was sweltering. Sweltering, yeah. 88 was my inter-cert year as well, my junior cert, yeah.
So we would have gone out to, we would have been out to the Skerries when the weather was nice, because they used to have the swimming pool out there and they used to have the amusements and stuff like that. And I don't know what happened, but we stumbled upon like a little sports shop. Now, like a real old sports shop, you know, really small, where it used to sell, like, you know, the school shoes and stuff like that, and as well as, you know,
there was a mixed bag.
There was a mixed bag, and we went in the first day, and I was like, my dad was like, we'll get you a jersey or whatever it was, you know, and so he said, what jersey do you want? And of course, the closest jersey to me, I suppose, was the yellow one, the yellow Packy Bonner jersey. You know, I was like, oh, I want the yellow one, you know. And he was like, what about the green one? And I was like, no, I want the yellow one, you know. And so he got me the yellow one. And I think every few weeks we went back then. I think the next time we went back in, we picked up the shorts, you know.
Yeah.
And then I think the time after that, from what I remember, we went in, I got the socks and then a set of gloves. You know, so you were drip fed, because remember, back in those days, the money wasn't as freely spent
I,
as it is
I,
now. You know,
I was going to touch on that people don't realise the magnitude of what that Irish team achieved in terms of lifting the country out of where it was. Country was going through
absolutely.
a real bad economic time at the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So I got the jersey on the first one, and got the shorts a few weeks later, and then I was very, very lucky, and I got the socks and a set of goalkeeper's gloves. You know, and like that was me at 5 years of age. I had those goalkeeper's gloves. They were like the first thing in my life where I couldn't leave the house without them. You know, you get to it, you're like, you
Yeah,
just bring it everywhere you go.
yeah,
Like I'm going to dentist appointments with gloves on my hands, and
yeah,
the dentist like, what's going on here? He's
yeah.
you know, he wants me to go.
These were your comfort blanket, like a baby's comfort blanket.
These
Yeah,
were my comfort blanket, and like
yeah.
I went on to play like for probably 20 years in goal. You know, 20, 25 years maybe. And it was all
With the same gloves.
probably the same gloves, and it was all down to, you know, the big man from Donegal and what he did that summer and stuff like that. And it's just, it's magical even to think back about it. You know what I mean? It really,
Yeah.
really is.
Marky in the comments there, the yellow keeper gloves with the black dots, legendary
That's the
gloves.
one, yeah. The Makita ones,
Absolutely.
aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the orangey color with the black dots. That's right, Marky.
Yeah. Let's touch on we'll touch on Jack for a minute, obviously, because we have to. I mean, he's like,
Absolutely.
and because we want to. What's your kind of memories that stick out of Jack and stuff like that? No.
Just like, you know, the first thing, obviously, I kind of realized very early on, and it's weird because I hear them talk, and I was like, I don't think he's like we are, you know, like this.
Yeah,
And I think like I think my dad probably said, oh, he's English, and I was like, he's English. And again, it's the early 90s, don't forget. So the the there was no love lost, let's say, you know,
yeah,
with England and stuff like that. And it'd been like, oh, hold on a minute here, like if this game is so important, and you know we're all Irish, and you know this, that, and a brand new hat, and why is the English fella leading us out? Like this is mental. But he
yeah,
said, no, he said, you know, whoever's in charge or whoever pulls on that jersey, you just get behind him and stuff like that. And I suppose my abiding memory with Jack, and obviously we had so many good times under him, but my abiding memory was the loss in Anfield to the Dutch,
yeah.
because that was like
That
the
hurt.
break in a Jack that hurt.
Yeah, that one hurt. Yeah, you could see it in him.
And you
Yeah,
could see it, and you could see it in him, and he done so much for us as a man and for as a country, and he was amazing for us. But he just got to that stage where he just looked broken, and he thought, I can't do this anymore. And I mean,
yeah,
like it was like a dagger to the heart, you know, when he was leaving, and when we were waiting to see who was going to come in, and you know, like it was huge change and stuff like that, because we'd only known one way for, you know, the best part of 10 years, pretty much, you know.
yeah. We were pretty much the party upstarts, weren't we? Really, that's really
Absolutely.
was our moniker, you know.
Yeah.
Daz is joining us tonight. Daz, how are you, man?
Hey, Daz, how
Uh,
are you, pal?
Doing good. Good to have you here tonight and all and stuff like that. Definitely missing the football at the moment. Daz struggling through the international break, so we said we'd jump
Yeah,
on and have a good chat about some Irish football memories and stuff like that. So if you have any or you know any, give us a shout and drop it in the comments there. Let us know your thoughts.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, I always I remember him. I think it was '94, wasn't it? And he was on the sideline in the sweltering heat in America. I remember he was
And
going
the white
ballistic with
baseball cap.
Aldrich, and he had the baseball cap on him. Yeah, he looked like one of the caddies out of Augusta, and he had the short sleeve shirt on him. Remember, like a barman.
Yeah,
And I just remember him and Aldrich going absolutely ballistic on the sideline. And I just remember Steve Staunton as well was just cooked. When you seen him on the pitch, I've never
roasted.
seen a guy as
Absolutely
red.
roasted. Do you know what?
Absolutely
Do you
roasted.
know what? And here's something for the listeners, because this will throw a bit of nostalgia at you. I got up this morning, as I do every morning, and I go for my morning constitution in the bathroom. and phone comes with me. I start flicking around Facebook, see what's happened overnight. Obviously, most people know we're wrestling fans, so we're having a little route through. I come to the sponsored ads, and it's JD Sports. JD Sports are selling the Mexico 1994 goalkeeper's jersey, the one that Jorge Campos wore at USA 94. I might see if I can get you a little picture of it. When I seen it this morning, I thought, this is amazing. We're going to talk international football tonight, and here's this jersey all those years later, because that for me, again, another amazing moment.
I'm convinced they're always listening to us. I don't know how they do it.
Again, I'm a goalkeeper at that stage, so it's 94. I'm 10 years of age. I'm big into my goalkeeping. I'm wearing Reebok boots because Peter Schmeichel at Man United wears them. I'm wearing Roosh gloves because Peter Schmeichel at Man United wears them. And then the next minute, the World Cup is on, and we're playing Mexico, and they've got this guy Jorge Campos, and he's got these jerseys, and they're so vibrant and bright. And straight away, I'm like, how do I get a Mexico jersey? How do I get one of them? I want one of them jerseys because and you've seen my shoe collection. I'm like, I love bright, vibrant colours, and I was like, I need to get myself one of these jerseys. And of course, at that stage, we've got no internet, or we've no access to anything like that. We maybe just had a plug in, and it probably a dial up that went for about 4 days before you get at,
You were lucky if you found a shop that even stocked the goalkeeper's jerseys. It was mainly just the main team. To find the goalkeeper jersey was a real find in any store. Yeah.
Used to go to a place it's actually still there. It's just off O'Connell Street, called Sportsmith. Marky will remember it in the comments. It's just around the side of Burger King on one of the little side streets there. And they've always done gloves for keepers and jerseys, and the pants with the pads down the outsides of them and the shorts and stuff.
That's right, yeah.
But I couldn't believe the Campos jersey, and all of a sudden we're going to do tonight's stuff, and there's this Mexico jersey. I just thought, this is... I thought about it. And had they have had it in my size, maybe I'd have had a bite at it. But I
don't know. So sometimes I look at those, and even if they don't have your size or don't have my size, I tend to pick them up because they're not necessarily one that I would wear. It's just one that I would like to have. So sometimes I don't overly worry about the size.
This wasn't necessarily something you were going to be picking up. I think this was $100.
Yeah.
So it was, you know what I mean? It wasn't something that you were just going to go, oh, yeah, here we go. I have it up here. Adidas Mexico goalkeeper icon shirt, it's called. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Oh, yeah, I remember it well, yeah. Absolutely.
Look at that. That is right out of the top drawer. Like, that's the most amazing thing I think I've seen. It's 110 quid. But if anyone wants some nostalgia from your youth, if you're looking for the Jorge Campos jersey from USA 94, look no further. That is a piece of history there. It's absolutely beautiful.
And the funny thing, you're nearly 30 years on there, and that still stacks up. That still looks the business.
Well, when I saw it this morning, I said, you know what? I said, if you brought that out tomorrow as a goalkeeper's jersey, kids would run to the store to get one.
Yeah, absolutely. Marky's back in. Yeah, down the lane at Burger King. Love that place. And remember, Soccer City as well on Georgia Street as well, yeah. Used to do all the throwback and all the retro stuff as well as the current stuff, yeah.
He used to, Soccer City on Georgia Street used to be the only place you could go to get, like, the real Preds. When all of the, when the likes of Marathon and Champion and stores like that would only stock, like, the base range. Yeah. You could go to Soccer City if you wanted to get the actual top of the line, the 1.1s or whatever, and then you'd pay top whack, and your mom's the groupie.
Nowadays they call them the player version.
The player version, yeah. Or they tap into they tap into the WWE and they call them the premium version. For your premium live events.
Right, so where shall we begin? Will we begin with Begin with 88. Kind of have to really begin with 88,
Yeah,
don't we?
let's hit
I mean,
88 up, yeah.
we could go back further and we could talk about Gilesy and stuff like that and all. But I think when we talk about 88, certainly we talk about
But Giles is a grumpy shite, so we don't want to talk about him, do we? Johnny,
we
you
gotta talk
grumpy
we gotta
shite.
we gotta talk about this man, don't we?
Yeah.
What a goal. What a goal. And it was just crazy. And I think if people remember back to that game, or they've looked at it in the past on YouTube or whatever it is, what an England team. What an England team that
Yeah.
we went up against.
To be anywhere near that England team, talent wise, we were patting so far above our average. It was ridiculous,
Yeah. I don't even know what the gulf and ranking was, but I assume at the time England were probably top 3, top 4 maybe in the world, I would have thought, ranking wise. And I would have assumed we must have been down in the 40s or 50s or something like that. So in terms of stacking up,
we could have been lower.
Yeah, we might have been. Yeah, absolutely.
Because
before
88 there was so little success,
Yeah.
and you've got to think of a lot of the countries that were big in those days, the Hungaries, and the Romanias and teams like that, and the old Soviet Union teams and stuff like that. They were big footballing nations, back then, before we kind of got a grip on it and stuff.
Yeah, I remember my memories of this 88. I was doing my intercert or junior cert for you younglings at the moment. Same thing basically.
Young pups.
But when we were playing, the country basically shut down, and I mean the country shut down. And when we won games or we qualified or we got through, the eruption was unbelievable. There was cars flying around, horns beeping. There was kids swinging out of cars. Cars were full of kids, roofs, bonnets, everything, the whole lot. It was just crazy. There was lads spray painting their cars, tricolours, all this kind of thing. And it was amazing to see as well how a country that had been so dour down in the dumps, economically we were really struggling in the 80s and stuff like that. I would remember those times as well, because I remember there was times, and I don't say this without messing, but it was a real struggle sometimes even to find weekly food and stuff like that for some families and stuff like that. They had to beg, steal and borrow at times to get through and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But the lift, it goes to show when people talk about the lift that sports gives you, it's absolutely massive. And for this country, it was huge. It lifted us out of a really dark time in our country and gave us hope. And that we could puff our chest out and we could be proud of our country and we could get our country going again and stuff like that. And I think if you remember around sort of, we go on to 90 obviously as well, and 94 and stuff like that. That's when all of a sudden Ireland started to look, businesses started to look at Ireland and say this might be the place to go, and we started developing all these different incentives for companies to come in, and the Microsofts of this world came in and stuff like that and all, and it really gave the country a huge lift because
Intel,
Microsoft, Dell, all these big companies came in and chose Ireland to come in, and it really got the country going again. So it was really, really massive. And I don't think to this day, I don't even think players like Ray and stuff like that and Jack and, people like that, I don't think they realised the actual difference they were making in terms of the history of the country on so many more levels, not just sport.
Well, it's the everyday difference. It's, know what I mean? Like, they would obviously see the difference that they were making on a sporting front, but they didn't see the lift that, everyone going out for a few jars on a Wednesday night when the football was on was given the publican. And then, the publican being able to throw a few quid at, the local takeaway to bounce a few bags of chips out on the table or whatever. And it was that rollover effect that, that domino effect that I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and all of a sudden we're all back up on our feet again. And that's the part where I definitely think you're right. I think it's something that's gone not unspoken about, but certainly gone under the radar a little bit, and how they were able to drag us out of the doldrums like that,
Yeah, I mean, I think we were. I think in some respects the country had lost its identity, hadn't it? And and we were trying to find that identity again, and we were looking for something to cling on to be proud again, to lift us out of this and stuff. And I just remember at the time, it was absolutely monumental when these guys went out on the pitch and the effort that you said as they put in, pulling on that jersey and being so proud. And, so many players there that in reality they were English. They weren't Irish. As I said, he stretched that elastic big time. But, even as you said, to have an English manager walking us out as the Irish team and him to be so proud of that job as well. And it's part of...
Initially it didn't go down well with people that we were going after an English manager, and people absolutely didn't like the idea of it, because there was still an awful lot of trouble on this island at that stage, and it was difficult for people to accept Jack to begin with. But then I think when you see the type of unity that he brought to the country, it was very hard then to say, well, he's not the right man for the job, regardless of success, because of the unity and because everyone pulled in the same direction. And for so long, that hadn't been the case. We hadn't had people all pulling in the same direction. And it was that pulling in the same direction again that got us back up off the deck,
Yeah. It was mad. Even walking around, I remember, even older women and grannies and mothers and stuff like that, they were going around because Penny's obviously been so good as it was. I don't know. I think it was Primark back then. It mightn't have been Penny's even. I think even back then it might have even been the BHS. Remember the British Home Stores on O'Connell Street at that stage? It could have been even. I don't know how far back I'm going.
You're just going a little bit too far.
A bit too far, yeah. But they used to do a line of these white shirts, and whoever was the cool cat on the day, like Hilton or Sheedy or Ronnie Wheeler, whoever it is, they did a line of these shirts, and they were like caricatures, and they had the little songs and stuff like that on them. But I remember all the mothers and the grandmothers and all, everyone was wearing these shirts. Everyone had them on them. It was
with
amazing.
Their tracky bottoms on their runners.
Tracky bombs and whatever it is, and they'd wear them to the pubs and all that kind of stuff. So the wave was absolutely massive, you know what I mean? It was great. Daz back in the comments there. Any bets for the weekend yet, Niall? Daz, I haven't looked at a bet. I don't think I could look at an international bet, to be honest. They're so tough to do.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you one bet if you want, Daz. Put your money on Scotland at the weekend, because I watched them against the Ukraine the other night.
Very impressive.
And I don't see things going very well for us come the weekend, if I'm honest. So if you want to make a few pounds, jump on possibly result and both teams to score in Scotland's favour.
Yeah, Boost on the top of the table now as well, aren't they? I seen that the other day. Top of the table now. Yeah, it's so hard to get it. So hard to get an international bet up. I think I did one yesterday for the crack on the way home. I was walking by Boyles and I had a bit of change on me. I said I'd go in and do one. And I did Scotland to win and both teams to score. But I did an accumulator as well, and I did the 3 women's games. I did the Roma one, I did the Paris Saint-Germain one, and I did the Real Madrid one. And all 3, Roma, Paris Saint-Germain, and Real Madrid. And I did them all over 3.5 goals. And I'm not sure, but I think the 3 games all finished with 3 goals each. I was so close.
Oh, God.
It was mad. And I just said to myself, I was looking back and I said to myself, and this is not a diss on women's football at all. I said to myself, I really shouldn't be putting on bets regardless of the change for international week. I should just stay clear of it.
Just steer clear. Yeah.
Steer clear. I suppose when we talk about Ray and his goal and stuff like that and the memories of it and stuff like that, we probably have to mention this one as well. This was Ronnie Whelan's against the former USSR, which our friend Putin probably wanted to go back there again. He wants to re-engage history again by the looks of things and take the whole place over again. But the goal against the USSR, if you remember, it was a throw-in, I think it was, from Mick McCarthy, and he absolutely shinned it into the top corner. As clean a shin as you'll ever see. And what a goal it was. Unbelievable as well. That's kind of my moments from 88. Some cracking ones there, you know. Where we go next? I suppose we should pull up. I mean, we should start really with this one. This was a sort of, for me, this is a kind of a combination one for me. It's kind of like, it's Packy Bonner's save and
Yeah,
David O'Leary's penalty. And I think you can't separate both, because I think if you watch it, and if you even watch it, go back and watch the van, and you watch the van when it's happening and stuff like that, it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? The reaction is incredible. But what's your thoughts on 1990? When we spoke the other day, you said that this would be your number one moment.
yeah.
Packy's save.
The save is just the save gives you the opportunity to win the shootout. You know, if you don't
Mm,
make the save, O'Leary's still got an awful lot of pressure on him because he's got to score to keep the game going. You know,
mm,
whereas that flip flops because all of a sudden Bonner makes the save, and then O'Leary's looking going, I can win this for
yeah,
our country. I can put us through to a quarter final of a World Cup, you know,
yeah,
and beat a team like Romania, who were favourites on the day as well. Don't forget,
yeah.
um, like they'd some good players at that stage still.
Mm,
The up and coming Georgie Hadji at that stage. Remember,
that's
mate
right. Yeah,
played that day.
absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
and and Romania have always had some good players. But
yeah. And
to
and and speaking of jerseys,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah,
But the save for me is just
yeah,
it just ignited a nation.
yeah,
It really did. It just lit the whole thing on fire, and all of a
yeah,
sudden it was just this wave
yeah,
of good vibes and energy,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
brought the fun back into things for the country, and was brilliant. But it was
yeah.
Packy save that did it. You
Yeah,
know,
and his celebration. Remember, he jumps up and gives a little
jumps
skip
up and
because
gives a
because
little.
Packy wouldn't have been that kind of outlandish kind of guy and stuff
No,
like
no,
that.
no. He's
It
very
was just a
quiet
little,
spoken man,
yeah,
and
yeah. But he unloaded there, and then I remember O'Leary going up to take the penalty, and I don't know if you remember Jack looking away and he's chewing the knuckles off himself. Jack
yeah.
is his fist is nearly down his throat at this stage thinking about it.
I I bumped into Dave a couple of years ago. My young lad
Mm,
plays football for Raheny, and he did a game out he's playing out in Hout against Hout Celtic, just opposite the St. Vincent's graveyard there, up Carrickbrack Road. And after the game, I said to him, "I need to pick up a few bits. We'll nip into Super Quinn in Sutton Cross." So we walked in. He had his gear on, and I think he just after busting the nose maybe in the game, like this.
mm,
And we were in there anyway, and O'Leary was walking around with his mother. The mother was I think the mother lived in Glasnevin, but Dave used to bring her to Super Quinn and Sutton on a Sunday morning to do her shopping. This was part of the deal, Now, this only a
the
couple of years
routine.
ago. This was part of the routine, like that. He says, my mother's. I said, do you mind if we get a picture? Now, at this stage, Andrew hadn't got a clue who he was. I says, do you know who this guy is? And Andrew kind of says, no, not really. And I says, well, he scored the winning penalty for Ireland in a World Cup shootout and put us into the quarterfinals of the World Cup. Now, for a kid that all he does is play FIFA, he kind of stopped and just looked. And he said, O'Leary whispered in his ear, he says, don't mind your dad, he's only messing. Like this. And I was like, it was, he was kind of like, don't, it was, I had nothing to do with it. He was saying like this.
Yeah,
It was a team effort, Brady Bravo.
yeah,
Really, really nice guy. Stood and took a picture and stood like that, and asked Andrew how we got on that day, and how did you do? And Andrew says, "Oh, we won." And he says, "Did you play well?" And blah blah. And he said, "Keep at it." He said, "You never know. Someday you might put on that green jersey." It was lovely for him to
yeah,
to be so humble and stuff like that.
yeah. Wow, very good. Um, I wanted to talk about this one. This one I think about with such fondness, but also sadness because he has left us. Um, Alan McLaughlin.
Yeah,
Very sad. Scored against Northern Ireland in '93. Remember, we were in that cauldron.
yeah,
And
I
it was
sure
about
do.
it was about to kick off up there, if you remember and all. If you remember the atmosphere, the tension you could cut with a knife.
Well,
And even
Billy the Bigger had been there, hadn't he?
yeah, but also they both sets of managing staff and assistant staff and all, they were all going at it really on the sidelines throughout the game and stuff like that and all. But it was absolutely hostile. If you look
Yeah.
back through the network, actually, I did an episode with Dean, who used to do the Shankly sessions with me, and we spoke about it on his passing. We went back and we looked at that cold night. I think it was cold night in November or something like that, or it was cold or something like that.
Yeah,
But
World Cup
yeah,
playoff, huh?
yeah. But Marky sums it up here. Yeah, hostile night in Windsor Park, to say the
Oh,
least.
hostile was one word,
Yeah.
yeah. Jesus Christ, man.
But this man popped up and enshrined his name in Irish football legendary status.
Sure did.
I have to say, great shout out as well to the jersey. Talking to jerseys, absolutely classic.
It was a smashing hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great goal. But yeah, I wanted to bring that one up because obviously he's not with us anymore and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it was a huge
very, very
moment because
important.
without that goal, we don't go to the USA '94.
That's right,
You know,
yeah.
so and again, that was more memories for us. That was another step on from Italia '90 because again, at that stage, then the hopes are so much higher. You know, and the levels of expectancy were there that we would waltz into, you know, probably a quarter final like we had in Italia '90, and in reality that was never going to happen. You know, we would have need to have done something extremely special again to get to that type of a situation scenario, you know.
Yeah. When you speak of '94 there, and we spoke about it a little bit earlier, I forgot to pop this one up. This man was going absolutely ballistic on the
Yeah,
sideline. And
that was
Jack was the
Kenan.
same. They were absolutely tearing in.
Yeah,
But when he eventually got on, if you remember, like the heat of that bowl at the time and stuff
yeah,
like that, and you know, and like again, you know, sometimes we talk at the moment about, you know, soccer officials and stuff like that at the moment and refs and just how bad it is. If you remember back to that day, how bad it was just ridiculously
yeah.
bad. But McIntyre's cross and Aldo finished it to help
Still
us
header.
qualify for the next round with that goal. So it was pivotal that we got him on, and Jack knew that at the time, you know. Staunton.
Didn't we have
Mark said,
to? Didn't we have to get the draw against Norway then? Was that not? Did that not game not come second the Mexico game? So we obviously
I'm,
won the opening game against Italy.
yeah,
I think we lost the next game against Mexico, so we needed a result against Norway, and it was the
yeah,
0-0 draw. But it was actually the goal that Aldridge had scored against
yeah.
Mexico, which tipped the
Bumped us up.
balance. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Marky in the comments, Staunton wearing a cap for the national anthem before he absolutely toasted you. It was mad. See Stevie there, and he was suffering out on the pitch that day, like a lot of the Irish lads. And I just remember even at half time, and they were toweling down their necks and all. Look at Aldo walking off there with the jersey wrapped around his neck and all and stuff like that. The heat was incredible, and of course the fans and all brought it and stuff like that. Can you imagine how warm it would have been on the pitch at that time? You know, incredible. But yeah, this is one I wanted to bring up because I think we were probably one of the first teams to do this, and then we kind of set a little bit of a trend. Aldrich scored in the 84th minute, yeah, spot on, Marky, yeah. This is where we had the audience with the Pope, if you remember this one. Italia, I think it was Italia '90.
Wasn't
Um,
it? Yeah.
and they set it up, and I listened to if you listen back to the documentary, the one they did with Jack and stuff like that, and Jack giving you his version of this and stuff like that, and how they were talking about they had set up this audience to go meet the Pope and stuff like that. And if you look at some of the pictures there, like O'Leary and Staunton and all, these guys are wondering what the hell's going on and stuff like that, you know. It's mad. And of course those famous shell suits. How could we forget them? But yeah, it was mad. I don't remember prior to that another team going and having an audience with the Pope. And obviously it must have been granted as well, because I know the Pope at the time, he had quite an affection for Ireland and stuff like that. Remember with the visits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
He
yeah,
was a goalkeeper himself, wasn't he?
I think he was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Pope John Paul was a goalkeeper from what I remember. He played in Poland, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think he was probably, would I be right in saying he was probably the last of the most endearing kind of popes? Um, that he kind of I think
Yeah, I think
he found a connection with the people that was not just on a religious level. And since then, it's kind of been, I suppose we've evolved as well in terms of religion and stuff like that.
we
So
have. We have.
it's a bit harsh to kind of sort of compare now with them and stuff like that and all, you know. But if you
There's
look
not
at if you
there's not too many people going into hotel rooms and stealing Bibles anymore.
no, not anymore, because they probably don't put them in them anymore most of the time, you know. Yeah, but Marky was on there, Aldridge in the 84th minute. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, but I thought again, as I said, I wanted to bring up some kind of memories that weren't
Yeah,
just kind of they're connected to football, but not
football related.
necessarily,
So yeah,
yeah, football
not
related.
directly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of a fun one that I wanted to bring up. One that I'll think you're going to enjoy, and then I'll bring up some other ones later. This one for me was one that stuck out. Richard Dunn's performance against Russia, if you remember, in Moscow. Um, he was sensational. 2011.
We
He
draw near
literally,
Alder.
I think it was, yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was. But his performance on the night was absolutely incredible in terms of if you're a defender or or you want to become a defender. Go back and look at that performance because he was everywhere on the night, and I
he
mean everywhere.
in his defence, he'd a number of games like that for Ireland.
Yeah,
And no,
mm,
and when you talk about, when you talk about great Irish defenders, guys will always, the first one comes to mind will be Paul McGrath. You know
mm,
that Kevin Moore and
mm.
guys like that. Gotta tell you, the old honey monster Richard Dunn was right up there for me.
Yeah.
Probably didn't do it, and probably didn't do enough in the league for me. I feel like at times maybe his league form let him down a little bit,
Mm,
and maybe it didn't shine him in the kind of light that he deserved to be shone on, that deserved to be shone on, because at certain times certain players, and we know this has been the case over the years, will do so much more in an international jersey than they do in a club jersey. And there's other players will do the opposite. They'll do so much more in a club jersey than they will in an international jersey. Some guys, when they go to the international scene, are anonymous. Other guys have much bigger games. They're just, they're like Mister whatever their country is,
yeah.
and that's, I feel like that about Richard Dunn, I have to say. I think he had a serious amount of games for Ireland, and he had a lot of really, really good games. And at
Mm.
times, I don't think he gets the plaudits he deserved.
Yeah, at times I think he was overshone by some of our forward play at the time when we had Robbie there and Duffer and stuff like that and all. And I think it was a pity really because if you remember this game, he must have come off this game bruised and battered. I don't know how many blocks he made. I don't know how many last ditch tackles he made and stuff like that. But he was absolutely sensational. It's easy for us to come on a show like this and talk about how great Robbie Keane was and how great Duffer was and all these different players and stuff like that. But more often than not, the defenders for us don't really get the plaudits that they deserve. And they were
Absolutely.
so pivotal to our pathway in terms of where we wanted to try and go and qualify and various things like that.
Well,
So
we
I thought it
never
was
we never ever scored tons of goals. So
mm,
invariably, when we were getting results, it was 1-0 or 2-1. That's
yeah,
how we would, and you would need a solid defense. We've been absolutely blessed with some superb goalkeepers over the years, like Packy, obviously, Shay Given, Alan Kelly, in recent years, like the boy Bazunu has started his career phenomenally for Ireland. He's been
mm.
unbelievable. And then even, you've got your boy Queeving Keller, who, again, as Jurgen describes him, he's the best number 2 in the world.
It's
You
probably
know,
our strongest position in terms of strength and depth on the team. In
has been
fairness,
for a long time. Has been
yeah,
for a long time.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, but your memories. I want to go back as well and talk about. I mean, obviously everyone remembers put him under pressure and all that kind of stuff and all. But I went back yesterday and I looked at Christy Moore's one, Joxer Goes to Stuttgart, which I
Yeah,
just thought was an absolute classic and a brilliant song. If anyone out there hasn't seen it or listened to it, it's basically a working class man who sets out in his van to follow the Irish soccer team wherever they go and stuff like that. But Christy Moore, what a legend of Irish music and stuff like that, and to bang out a song like that was absolutely sensational at the time, and it basically summed up either everything we were as Irish fans or everything we wanted to be. I mean, I remember back then when we all wanted to get together and jump in a van and follow the Ireland team around Europe or whatever it was and stuff like that. It would have
yeah.
been unbelievable at the time to do that and stuff like that. But the song is absolutely brilliant. But yeah, check it out if you haven't checked it out. It's good, and I wanted to bring that up as well. You mentioned Big Jack's Anfield farewell, obviously losing 2-0. Patrick
Yeah.
Kluivert,
Patrick Kluivert, yeah.
unbelievable.
That's when he'd
Unbelievable.
kind of made a little bit of a name for himself at Ajax.
Yeah.
He was just getting involved in the Dutch national team, which had they were clearing out on all their side, the likes of Van Basten and the likes of Hullet and Rijkaard and Koeman and stuff like that. And they were bringing in the De Boers and they were bringing in the
This was the next
Overmars
wave.
and the Bergkamps, the next wave. And Kluivert was part of that, and he was just sensational that night. Absolutely sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. One I wanted to bring up is an interesting one. I mean, you mentioned going to an England game and stuff like that. But if you remember back to 1995, David Kelly scored a goal versus England. And it was kind of hostile in Lansdowne Road. If you remember, this was when, the match was abandoned and the English hooligans were wrecking
Sure do.
Lansdowne Road and stuff like that. We remember it well. But it was an interesting one as well because obviously I firmly believe we probably would have went on and won that game because not only had we the fans in the stands rattled, but we also had the team on the pitch rattled as well.
Absolutely.
But
And I
unfortunately,
remember the distinct thing I remember about that night was they wore a crimson colour jersey, England, very red crimson-y colour,
yeah,
and then obviously later on it turns into hell, or it turns into some sort of a a situation where we all remember that kid and his father on the pitch, and they're looking up at the stands and there's chairs being pulled out of the stands and stuff, and it was horrific
yeah,
night for football in general,
yeah,
for Irish football, but for football in general, because I think when you're a football fan, you don't want to see your sport painted in that kind of a light by any set of fans, even if it's not your country, and we can wash our hands and say, well, wasn't us, we're not the bad guys. You don't want a sport that you follow, and you don't want a sport that you're passionate about to be painted in that sort of a light around the world, and it was a sad night for football.
Yeah, and especially when you think back to those times for Irish football fans, it was very much a family thing. Like a father would bring his son, or brothers would go together, or brothers and sisters and stuff like that. It was a very shared thing at that stage and stuff like that. So it wasn't
Absolutely.
necessarily, your typical ultras versus your Irish fans or whatever it is. You know what I
No,
mean? It wasn't,
no.
because that was
What was
never
it?
the
Do
atmosphere
I
at
remember it
Lansdowne.
rightly? Was it Combat 18?
Yeah, Combat 18. Yeah, Combat 18. Yeah, that's the one.
Fucking rubberheads.
But yeah, I thought. I mean, we can't bring up. Not everything is lovely and stuff like that. I mean,
No.
no,
And I mean,
Terry.
we've obviously touched on, Jack's, my abiding memory of Jack was him getting beaten and being shown the door. We've touched on that, and then I suppose you're gonna go to the other pantomime villain, are you?
Yeah, Terry Henry. Yeah, I just this is a kind of a weird one. You know what I mean? It's like, at times, we see football where players get injured and a guy might be running in on goal and he stops the play and he goes over to make sure the player's okay, even off the opposition. And he gets an earful off his manager and maybe an earful off some of his teammates. But the game is played in a certain way. And I just thought with this
Remember,
one.
Paul Gerrard was playing in goal for Everton against West Ham at Goodison Park.
That's right,
and when he kicked the ball, he fell, and the ball came. He pulled something, he snapped something, and the ball came to Di Canio, and the ball was basically, the net was empty, and Di Canio could do what he wanted, and he caught it. and I think it was
Picked
Harry
it up.
Redknapp that absolutely leveled him. And this was after the Canio had gone through the issues with the referee and stuff like that. Was it Paul Alcock when he pushed him and stuff like that?
That's right.
And it kind of generated a different sort of a buzz around him. And I know he got an award for it and stuff like that, a FIFA Fair Play award, which was good. But to look at that one, like it was mental, It was really, really mental.
Yeah, I just remember him. Picking up the ball, and it was underneath his arm. And I think, was Harry his manager at the time? I think Harry might have been his manager.
Harry was.
And I remember Harry post match and all.
Do you know who else is on his team?
Go on, yeah.
Stuart Pierce, and apparently,
to let the mascot out.
Stuart Pierce was playing for West Ham in the game.
Yeah.
And apparently, at the end of the game, a couple of the lads went to Paolo and said, "Paolo, well done, blah blah, whatever."
Yeah.
And he got back into the changing room, and Stuart Pierce and Harry Redknapp ripped him a new one. And he kind of sat there going, "We can't win here, can I? I'm damned if we do."
I remember Harry post match was being interviewed. I think and he goes, yeah, fair play to the kid. I think it was the right thing to do." And then the little throw out the side of the mouth, but it wouldn't have been me. Something like that, you know what I mean? He it was sort of like a double barrel kind of compliment and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. He went on and he got that fair play trophy.
He got the FIFA Fair Play trophy and stuff,
or something like that. Yeah, it was
the thing about the Henry game for me that was, and again, even with what happened, the abiding memory, that wasn't the abiding memory for me. The abiding memory was we were going to Paris. I think it was a 1-1 draw in Lansdowne Road, if I'm right, yeah?
Yeah.
1-1 draw in Lansdowne. Oh, no, the French win it? It was 1-1.
Might have been was it 1-1? Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think it was 1-1. I know there was a free kick. Someone scored a free kick. One of the French boys, right? Might have been Trezeguet, something like that. But I just remember we went away in the second leg and no one was kind of giving us a hope. And obviously Trapattoni was in charge at that stage. And I can actually remember the commentator speaking about this. And I was just thinking, this is mental. And they're saying, the lads out there in the pitch are unbelievable. But they look like they're doing the opposite to what Trapattoni has asked them to do, because they said there's no way that this Italian manager has asked the boys to go out and be gung-ho and to be, 100 mile an hour down the wings and, and we absolutely battered France.
Yeah.
Like, battered them. And I'm kind of sitting there going, like, we're in a shot here. Like, we're really kicking
well
on
in
here.
this.
In this, where we're really, really up for this, and then all of a sudden the goal, and you're like, oh yeah, it's okay, it's gonna be a free out and blah blah. And then you're looking at that stage. Don't forget we've no VAR, so like it's not like when someone scored, you're like, oh, everyone jumps up, but you can still have it was whatever it was, but.
Marky first leg, it was 1-0 to France, and Anelka scored.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously we'd made it 1-1 and stuff like that, and just we battered them, absolutely battered them. I couldn't believe we weren't in front even. And then just the goal that went in and obviously how it went in was just, it was farcical.
It was so obvious, wasn't it, as well?
I remember the next day there was a lot of political stuff going on, and we were going to contact the French president and have the game replayed and all of this, and you're just thinking,
it was massive.
This is fucking mental, like, what's going on here? Oh, the French should give their spot in the World Cup to the Irish, and you're like, what do you mean they should give it away? Like, maybe they want to go as well, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was crazy, and it went on for a long time as well. It stuck in people's craw for a long time.
It did.
I just remember, Marky's here. I just remember Henry sitting beside Dunn at the end, and I was hoping Dunn would have knocked him out. There would have been only one winner in that round, that's for sure. No doubt
absolutely.
About it. Actually, I remember, Marky, what you're talking about, and I remember Dunn looking up at him, actually, and I remember the scowl on Dunn's face when he looked up at Henry and stuff like that and all, yeah. Unbelievable. I suppose we have to mention the old FAI went cap in hand to the GAA for the use of Crow Park.
That's right.
And we go back to our first game in Crow Park, March 2007, Wales in the European 2008 qualifiers, and we won 1-0, courtesy of a man who has a kind of a love-hate relationship with Ireland and with the Irish fans and stuff like that. One Stephen Ireland, who scored the goal. Well, what I remember at the time, I mean, remember all the talk going around that, like, you know, this English game, football, should never be played on this hallowed turf and all this kind of thing. And then all of
All
a
that
sudden a check,
phony.
and then all of a sudden a check was written and it was all good.
Yeah. Well, the rugby boys played there as well, didn't they? Remember Martin Johnson and stuff like that and everything, and you know. But it was, listen, that was the GAA being the GAA as usual. That's why I'm a soccer fan.
Yeah. How about that? And we do have to say, though, what a stadium for an amateur organisation. Unbelievable.
The only amateur thing in the game of GAA is the players, but there's an awful lot of professionals making big money behind the scenes there. And they're just lads that take the money out of the game and take it away from the people that should have it in their possession, which is the players, because there is not an amateur sport in the world that's played to the degree and that GAA football and hurling is played. Like, it's revered all around the world, everywhere you go. You're from Ireland, what's that sport you play? You know, and the Yanks have baseball and the Yanks have American football, and you know, the Japanese have sumo wrestling, and you know, the Indians have cricket, and that's, everyone's got their little, and this is our thing, and people look at our sport and they go, you know what, this is on a different level. And to think that's, you know, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker is a fucking farce for my money. I have to be honest with you. It's an absolute farce. It's one of the reasons I don't get behind the GA anymore, because I don't like the idea of it just being a lot of fat cats sitting on a board, taking the cream off the top and making the boys down the bottom fucking sweep up the ashes.
Yeah. In fairness, there's a lot of players there make a tidy living as well. I mean, a few of them have been pulled in a couple of times with rucksacks of cash in the back of their cars and stuff like that. So they must be doing all right from Lions' T ads and Lucas Aid ads anyway, for sure, in one way or another. But yeah, what was your feeling at the time back then thinking about, like, sort of, you know, football heading over to Croker? I mean, I know at the time they were looking at using grounds in the UK as well. I think Anfield was an option at one stage and stuff like that.
That's right,
And once they rolled out those options, all of a sudden the GAA sat up and said, "There's a few bob to be made here. Hang on a minute, why would we be letting that go across the water?"
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. But it was certainly, I remember that one. It was certainly the build up to it and all was amazing as well. And still, you had a kind of a fan base divided. Because you had a strong GAA fan base there as well, who didn't necessarily want football played at their ground and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and the FAI, as far as I know, they paid through the nose for the courtesy of it, let's say. It cost them big bucks at the time to get the deal over the line.
I'd say the GAA bent them over every barrel they could find.
and some.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of rounds out what I kind of had on my list. I know probably there's a bit of crossover with yours and stuff like that as well, but that was kind of the ones that I had put together. Some very much football and some kind of linked to football. I mean, obviously we have to mention the movie The Van and stuff like that and all. It was electric and stuff like that, you know. It's just, again,
it's from the it was filmed on the road opposite mine. I'm from Thornville Road, and it's from Briarfield Grove. So if you just walk halfway down my street and take a left, Thornville Road becomes Briarfield Grove, and then it loops back up to the top and it goes around. So I remember it actually being made, the van, because some of the people in my class and things like that got little bit parts in it and stuff like that, and they were out of school and they had the film crews were up parked at the Dart station in Kilbarrack for weeks on end, and they had the lights on at night time to film the scenes, and like there was a great buzz around the area, and like at that stage, Kilbarrack, and still is, a very working class area, you know, and it brought a lot of, it brought a lot to the area and stuff like that, you know. But like the Ireland thing and for me, the days we've had and the memories that they've created for us, this team, these boys in green jerseys, it's phenomenal. Like I can't not mention, I've a couple myself on top of what we've touched on, and I suppose like the first one I have to mention is, the Robbie Keane equaliser against Germany, in Korea, Japan, in 2002. Like just unbelievable, like really, really unbelievable. I was just about 18. I don't remember if it was pre-exams or post-exams, but I'm pretty sure it was the year of my leaving cert. And I don't know where I was supposed to be, but I do remember I was in the Swiss cottage in Santry watching it. And, we went the goal down, but we were kind of in it a little bit, and it was back and forth, and the goal went in. The whole place just erupted, like absolutely erupted. It was nuts, and I don't think we can.
And what a celebration! What a celebration!
What a celebration! What a celebration! Like again, we're talking Germany. I have to throw in the Shane Long goal in the qualifiers. The punt upfield, and all of a sudden he's kind of
on his own.
He's kind of homing in on Manuel Neuer, and then the next minute he pulls the trigger, and you're like, how many times does he hit that ball and not score? Because at that stage, Manuel Neuer is the beans when you're talking about goalkeepers. And Germany were a machine. But we've always been able to get up for games against Germany, I remember, I think we had a good 2-2 draw with them pre-World Cup in 94 as well. Germany have always struggled a little bit with Ireland, I think I don't think any of their technical ability was ever enough to match our passion. I think that's always the way I've looked at it, and the games and stuff like that,
Yeah, they had some fabulous teams, didn't they, Germany? When you think about
it,
a matter of fact, when you look at their international record, it doesn't justify the talent they've had over the years when you think about it. And then when obviously they combined, because I remember being in the UK in '82 and all, when it was West Germany and stuff like that. No, and I remember when they pulled down the wall and they put them together and stuff like that, and God, the teams they put together were unbelievable. They were so strong back to front, every position, every one of them absolutely monsters. And it's a wonder they didn't have more success than what they had when you think about what was put together there,
I think that's just a testament to some of the other teams we've seen, I mean, for a long time, Brazil would rock up at a World Cup and just win it. And that was just, they could be dirt for 3 years, show up at a World Cup and just turn that Samba style on, and all of a sudden
came alive,
there was another Gilles Rimet trophy leaving the building type thing. What other ones have I got? What other ones that were? I again don't think we can have a show like tonight and not mention the Robbie Brady goal against Italy. What a goal! What a moment! I see Niall is mentioning, or sorry, who did I say?
Mark.
I see Mark is mentioning Wezzo, and it was obviously Wezzo's ball in, for Robbie and stuff like that. Great run and super finish. That was a special moment. He goes to celebrate in the crowd with his brother Darren, who I actually went to school with. Darren's a year younger than me, but he went to the same school as me. And like that was mental. The way they scored the goal and the celebrations afterwards again brought us back to our feet again. And then again, if we're talking about Italy, we've got to talk about Ray Houghton enjoying Stadium. I know we touched on Ray earlier, but that goal against Gianluca Pagliuca was pretty special because at that stage he was one of the top keepers in the world, and you know that Italian team had some serious footballers in it,
Oh yeah.
Baresi and Donadoni, and you know Roberto and Tino Baggio, and you know Ravanelli's, and lots of serious footballers, and little old Ireland put them to the sword in the heat in New York and Giant Stadium. It was special. It was magical.
All those New York Irish fans, they came out in full effect, didn't they? David's on as well. Darren Brady went to my school too.
Yeah, so I think Darren left Fintons in about third or fourth year, and then he went to Nessens, which is where David went. Now, I was surprised he went to Fintons in the first place because Darren Brady can see Nessens from his front door nearly, down in Meadowbrook Park in Baldoyle. So it was a bit of a surprise he went there in the first place, I suppose. We used to have a kickabout with him. One of my best friends, actually his birthday today, big shout out to Spud, Sean Beresford, really, really good footballer. Spud and Darren used to play together at Kevin's. And me and Spud were best mates. So I was a goalkeeper and Spud used to play outfield. And we used to just go up to the pitch at the top of Imams Road and just kick a ball around pretty much all day. And when we got to secondary school then, if I was heading somewhere to play a game of ball with lads from my year, I'd bring Spud. And if he was going to play with lads from his year, he'd bring me. And we'd just fucking... We'd dovetail it like that together, you know. We'd travel around and have a kick about with boys from different areas and stuff. And we used to pop down to Meadowbrook to some of the lads and have a kick around down there in Baldoyle. You know, it was good crack.
Yeah, Marky mentions McGrath's performance against Baggio in the game was unbelievable. How could we forget? Couldn't even forget. Remember the rat's tail? He made rat's tails cool.
Yeah.
Many people after that had rat's tails. It's a mad the influence that football has on people and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's been a pleasure looking back at the memories and stuff like that, and the moments, and I'm sure we've left out millions of them at this stage, but we can only pick out so many to chat about.
We have to just throw throw Trigger in against the Dutch, don't we?
What a goal! Yeah, absolutely.
What a goal, but what a performance! Because again, at that stage, like you're talking about one of the premier sides in world football at that stage, the Dutch. They had players all over the park, like Edwin van der Sar playing in goal that day. You know, when we put a couple past them and absolutely rattled them at Lansdowne Road 2-0. Rattled them. Yeah. That was an unbelievable performance. Really was.
Yeah, isn't it mad when you look down through the history and the memories and stuff like that? Some of the scalps that we've taken, and you look at those teams and the players in those teams, like we had no right to do what we did, except we just rode this crest of a wave between, and it was amazing to think about it back then as well. You think about it like we had, you know, it was just the perfect mix. We had a mix of players. We had obviously Jack there who had a formula that he found that worked for the talent that we had available. And again, I suppose we have to mention the panel. And I know you were speaking about the panel last night in our WhatsApp group and stuff like that. But that RTE panel as well, it kind of brought us on a journey as well in that mix as well, didn't it really?
And the only and you know me, you know, like if I'm picking an 11, I'll put Keane in even though I don't like him, because I respect what the lad did. And in the same sort of a manner, I wasn't a big fan of certainly three of the boys on that panel. You know, I'm not a huge fan of Brady, Giles, or Dunphy. I have to be honest with you. I think Bill O'Hurley was absolutely amazing. But I think, as you say, the journey they brought us on, and I mean, even like some of the outlandish stuff and some of the ludicrous stuff, you know, that went on with Dunphy and stuff like that. It all played a part in the soap opera that was Irish football, you know.
Yeah, Marky mentioned there, Keane's tackle on Overmars 4 minutes in set the tone for the game, as he did so many times for both Ireland and United.
He almost broke him in two, though.
Absolutely.
Like he almost broke him in two. It was, it'll show you how kind of fired up he was for the occasion and stuff like that. He absolutely rattled Mark Overmars. Yeah,
you can sort of imagine it, can't you? Yeah. Oh, that's one of Vieira's mates. Hang on a minute. And we'll sort this out.
Come here. Give that
It
swine
was.
this in training. Badump.
Imagine being in the locker room like with Keno there, and imagine him getting you fired up for these games and stuff like that. And he must have been like an absolute possessed lunatic going out onto the pitch and stuff like that. Mad, isn't it? And then you think about, as you said, you think about the wave of that panel, and how critical they were of Jack, especially Dunphy. Dunphy for me was the original heel. The original heel
Absolutely.
there and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think at times as well, I don't think he even believed his own stick at times.
No, no, no,
But he
no.
put it out there
No,
anyway.
he was gonna be controversial and he was gonna disagree with what everybody said, but he was the
Yeah,
one guy everyone spoke about the day after. And he'd be on the
yeah,
back of the newspaper headlines, and people
yeah,
would say, "Did you see his antics last night on
yeah,
Après Match or on whatever was going on?" And
yeah. The
you'd be
show
like,
was brilliant,
"Jesus,
wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah." It
Yeah, we didn't
was,
even mention that, or the Ikeno plays and all that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff
The
that
Après
spawned
Match
out of all this.
was super,
Yeah, and
really
obviously
super.
Saipan as well. I did a show with Mark looking back on Saipan there a few months ago, and it did brilliant on the channel and stuff like that. I think it got over 2,000 views and stuff like that. Obviously touched a few people's memories and stuff like that as well, But yeah, it was just when you think about it, even I remember the Trapattoni era and stuff like that, and Dunphy was like going ballistic over this guy, and of course Giles was sitting on the panel as well, and Giles obviously had a hand in bringing the guy in. He was part of the committee,
Yeah,
so he was an easy target for Dunphy. And a lot of the talking time, Mark obviously mentioned Wes. Wes obviously got a very raw deal during that period and stuff like that. He was a sensational baller, and it was disgraceful what went on. Um,
Wes was like the Irish Matt Letizia. He's a guy that should have got more caps, should have got more goals, should have got more assists, should have got more opportunities. But
yeah.
because of systems and how guys wanted to play the game,
Mm.
Wes was a luxury that certain managers couldn't afford in the same way Letizia was. Because I
Yeah,
mean, like if you look back at the Letizia highlight reel, like at one stage he was the goal of the month competition on his own.
yeah,
In the
yeah.
Premier League, and he was
Sensational,
doing
yeah.
it right at the top level.
Yeah.
And Wes was our Matt Letizia. He could do something a bit different. He could score a special goal. He
Mm.
could, he could put a ball onto a sixpence for someone, and he could do stuff like that. He could do those magical things, but unfortunately, it's horses for courses, and it's trying to fit guys into your team,
Yeah. Yeah, it was mad the way like he wasn't even used as much, even as an option or an alternative if what you were doing wasn't working and stuff like
wasn't
that.
working.
Because he
Option B. What
certainly
have we got
always
for
gives us
option
an
B?
option. Yeah, but option B was never triggered, as they say, most of the time, which was an absolute shame because he was a smashing footballer,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been a pleasure looking back. And we roll on to Scotland this weekend, which should be interesting.
Gonna be a tough game, but
Yeah,
I suppose after tonight and after the shocks and the upset we've caused over the years, would an away win in Scotland be such a massive shock? Probably not.
I think I think we're starting to see a little bit, are we, of what Stephen Kenny is trying to do, in recent games.
I got to be
He's
honest, and to begin with, I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of him, but again, you know me, if I get something wrong, I'll hold my hands up. I think he's doing a pretty good job, if I'm honest. And I think with the way he's evolved the squad, like we've got to be one of the youngest international squads in world football at this stage.
Yeah, I
And
think I think when he came in, I mean, obviously, he was having some success there with the 21s and stuff like that, and what people forget is there is a reasonable amount of Irish footballing success on this man's CV as well.
yeah,
And I think at times he was dropped into the melting pot really, where a lot of boys had to be shifted out. A massive cultural change had to take place,
yeah,
um, and he decided, I think, right from the beginning, he wanted to play he wanted to play football as opposed to what we all kind of grew up on. It was kind of a dogged mentality and a kind of sneak here and there and poach and rob here and there if we could, you know.
Yeah.
He wanted to get the ball down and actually play football, which was kind of foreign to a lot of those lads. And it's taken time, and he's brought in a lot of youth, and he's uncovered a lot of really good talent and stuff like that. And yeah, I hope we do well, and I hope we obviously beat Scotland on Saturday. But yeah, it's been a tough road for him and stuff like that, and especially like as we spoke about, when you think of all the memories we just rattled down over the last year, over the last hour, I should say. They've big boots to fill, really, don't they? In terms of that expectation is still there, like, you know what I mean. That one day we could
I don't know now if it's expectation, you know, more than blind hope that can we reach the dizzy heights again? We've been there once. Can we do it again? And I think, like, again, we're having the youth that we have involved. There's opportunities for us to, you know, to do well in the next 6 to 10 years in international football and make it to World Cups, make it to European Championships, and leave marks, you know, because we don't necessarily have a huge group of individuals that are standouts at their clubs, but when they come together and when they pull on that green jersey, you know, they're starting to pull in the right direction, and they've got a guy who wants to lead them in the right direction, which is, it's half the battle, you know.
And I think people forget as well that international football has evolved so much greatly in terms of the investment and the coaching and the background stuff, the underage, the investment in these countries and stuff like that. So the days of going off to San Marino and doing this, that, and the other, or going to Cyprus or going to Egypt or whatever it is, they've all stepped their game up, you know.
While we were here, I was keeping an eye on some results, and I'll just read one of them to you.
Yeah.
And I'll let you guess the score. Turkey at home to Luxembourg.
Probably Luxembourg 3-1.
So it was a 3-3 draw.
Okay.
But I mean, generally, if I asked you that score, you'd say 2-3, 4-0 Turkey.
Turkey have dropped way off the map over the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, but they still produce players. You know, they're still like
but a number. Do you know what happened? A number of their key players aged up, and they didn't have something coming in the background.
Yeah, there's youth on the way in, but it's not necessarily. Listen, that's Turkey who've beaten France in the last couple of years as well. Yeah. You know, in Turkey and got big results, but you know, those type of things. The Pharaohs get a 1-1 draw in the same group away at Lithuania. You know, Croatia beat Denmark. There's results. You know, international football is very, very tough to get a bet up in, as you said earlier on, because there's always a shock on the cards. There's always a little red herring that's going to catch people out somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, it was a pleasure looking back. I love these shows because it's so much a part of my youth and my childhood and all that kind of stuff, and the memories are fantastic. And as you said, it jogs memories of doing stuff with your dad and your parents and stuff like that, who may no longer be with us and stuff like that, but we remember them with fond memories. Again, if you want to leave more memories in the comments, fire away there. And if you want to contact the show, it's the uppertierpodcast@gmail.com. We're out there on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok on a daily basis. We thank everyone in the comments. Before you head out of those comments, of course, drop a like on the video. Keep on supporting us and share the content and stuff like that so we can push the subs up. They're still growing well, still moving in the right direction. We'd like them to move a little bit quicker, obviously. But until next time, we'll be back on Monday. But we'll have to have a think about what we're going to do Monday as well, because we don't have a Monday mashup, and you won't be joining me as far as I know.
That's right. I've got to work late on Monday.
Yeah, but no doubt our resident referee will be back on board, and we'll come up with a decent show for Monday as well.
I'll be back in action next Thursday.
Thursday for the Premier League preview and beat the bookie.
Beat the bookie.
We'll be back. We're giving them a week off, or a couple of weeks off this fortnight, but we will be back with a vengeance next Thursday to take money out of their bookie bags. Until next time, my friend, a pleasure.
Thanks, pal.